Hello and welcome to A Cat in the Garden. I do still have one plant package in the mail for the year. I feel like that is going to be my last one, pending seeing something that I feel like I have to have. So other than that, I feel like it's pretty safe to make this video. I don't think I'm getting any more wishlist plants for the year. And on top of that, it is going to start getting colder here and I don't want to risk shipping plants too much anymore. It's also pretty cold in the rest of the country, so just probably not worth the risk of shipping overall. So I feel like I can make this video pretty safely about all of the wishlist plants that I have purchased in 2024 and whether or not I think they were worth it. Did these plants live up to the hype? Would I purchase them again? Were they worth the price point? Did I fall out of love with them? And I actually have a few. A lot more than I thought I purchased this year, but that's fine, I guess. It's been a very busy plant purchasing year, I have discovered, and I checked quite a lot of plants off of that list. So I'll start with one that I got from Wild Roots Nursery. This is the Hoya Svetlana. I purchased it as a single leaf, unrooted, fresh cut. They were actually chopping plants at the sale as people requested them. So I got this as a completely fresh cut. It is rooted pretty nicely and it did grow this leaf for me, which is a little small and dark compared to the original leaf, but I do really like this plant. Yeah, it's pretty much rooted. I just watered it, so I do need the water to evaporate a bit, but it is rooted pretty well. I do really like this plant. My one wish is that it had grown more because I do think I purchased it a lot earlier in the year. I want to say around February or March, and it only gave me one leaf. That is a little bit of a disappointment, but I'm not too mad because I do still really like the way that this plant looks. I love the splash, I love the texture, I love the veins on the Hoya itself. Just a little bit slower to grow than some other plants I've purchased this year, but I love it. All right, a couple other Hoyas that I purchased earlier in the year. One of them is this nummularioides silver from Sam's Hoyas. Unfortunately, this plant was one of the biggest thrip magnets I have ever seen, and I was not expecting that from a Hoya because thrips have pretty much left my entire Hoya collection alone except for a couple, and this is one of them. I thought this plant was going to be a goner for sure, but I isolated it for a few months and it has come back with a vengeance. This is an entire new vine of growth. Plus there's a new leaf in the back here. There are only 2 original leaves left on the plant over here. And I'm just happy that it's come back. I do really like the plant. I don't really think it quite resembles the normal nummularioides, so I don't know why it's called the same but silver. It's not fuzzy at all. It doesn't have the same leaf shape, and it just seems like a completely different Hoya to me. So in that respect, it was a little disappointing. I didn't pay a lot for it. I think it was about $35. So I'm not gonna be mad. I do like it. I love a silvery Hoya. It's just not quite what I was expecting when I was seeing this plant first hit the market and I put it on my wish list. So kind of 50-50 on this one. For the price point, I do think it was worth it, but I wish that I had really gotten a nummularioides but silver because I really love that Hoya and this just isn't the same. I get that it has the same name, but if I put both side by side, they're just not the same plant. Another wishlist Hoya that I got from Sam's Hoyas is this Hoya Bat Cave. I love this plant. It rooted and established so quickly, and I was able to up pot it, get it in this pot. The roots look really nice around the sides of the pot, so it's doing well from that perspective. This leaf had not quite yet hardened off when I got it. It's hardened off now. It did grow a really long vine, but unfortunately I went on a trip and the vine died off. So it's kind of been up and down owning this plant. I'm thinking that I might actually move it out of the Hoya cabinet because I don't think it's as happy as it could be in there. So maybe I can encourage some new growth out of it. I'm really sad I haven't gotten any so far because I really love the leaves on this Hoya. I think they're just stunning. They're beautiful. And I do think it was worth the price point. just because I really wanted this plant in my collection for so long, and I do love the specimen that I got. And sometimes this is just what happens with Hoyas. They don't grow like you want them to. They sort of have these stagnant periods and then they have growth spurts. This one has been in a pretty long stagnant period now, so I think I need to switch things up with it a little bit and move it somewhere. But I do think it was worth it. This was one of the top wishlist plants out of anything, so I'm really happy that I own it, and hopefully next year I can encourage some growth out of it too. Not every wishlist plant that I got was a Hoya this year. I did get a few philodendrons as well. This is the Philodendron El Choco Red, and I think it's grown 2 or 3 leaves in my care, at least these 2. There's a new one coming up right now. They are getting a little smaller, which I don't appreciate, but I do think I should just get it on a proper pole and it might do better. Get it repotted, which I haven't done yet. I just threw it inside of this bigger pot without really repotting it. So there is some work for me to do with this plant and try to make it better and get those leaves sizing up, but it does have some really nice potential. I believe I got it for about $60 to $65, and I do think it was worth that price point. It's not wowing me currently with the smallish leaves. So I think if I can get better, bigger leaves, I will love it more. It just hasn't wowed me yet so far. And I'm a bit nervous about it because I have heard that these plants are very temperamental for being a philodendron. So I'm trying to be cautious with it. I did let it take a few months to acclimate to my environment. Now that it's done that, I feel like I can go in, give it a nice repot, give it a pole, and see what happens from there. So I have my fingers crossed. I feel like this could be like my summer glory that I didn't like when I purchased it, but now I do really appreciate it. So I'm not giving up on this one yet. It's not my favorite out of the plants that I have here right now, but I don't hate it. So 50-50. The verdict is still out on this one. I did also purchase quite a few wishlist plants at PlantCon this year, one of which is my Hoya Larissa. I'm really liking this one. I think it was $50. Do I have the price tag on it? Yep, 50 bucks. Okay, so this was $50, and I had seen cuttings on Etsy for $50 of just a single node cutting. So being able to get a full established plant for that price was really, I think, a good deal. It has not grown at all since I got it, but it does have multiple growth points, and I do think it's just been acclimating to a new environment in the 1 or 2 months that I've had it. Two, I guess. So I'm not mad at it. It's a nice fuller plant, so if it doesn't do a lot for a while, I'm not going to complain just because I've already got a nice bushy plant to look at. I think maybe a trellis could help this out quite a bit. Eventually a repot, but it seems pretty happy in its situation right now. And I am really loving the leaves. There is a pattern with these plants that I've checked off my wish list. Splashy, veiny, textured leaves, I guess, was the Hoya theme for 2024. And I'm not mad at it. I think it's beautiful. This was on my wish list for several years, so I'm really just happy that I checked it off, and it does not disappoint. I am so happy with this one. $50 for a really full plant, I think, is a great deal, and I'm just fingers crossed that it's going to do well in 2025, but I'm pretty happy with it so far. Is that a new growth point? Oh, okay. It's small, but it has activated a growth point right there. So hopefully that'll continue and we'll see some new growth. That was not there when I purchased it. So that's really exciting. Okay, I'm gonna get this to grow. All right, that's even better. Cherry on top for this plant, honestly. Another wishlist PlantCon purchased was, unfortunately, a plant I had a lot of high hopes for, and that is my Philodendron micans aurea, which immediately reverted as soon as I got it home. So this was the first leaf it put out in my care, and then this one, and now this one. So it's reverted. Technically, you need to give it 5 leaves before you can really call it reverted, but this is 3. This is going to be 4. I'm pretty sure it's reverted. I will be chopping this back over the winter because the lower part does have a nice variegated stem, but I'm just really disappointed in this plant. I thought I was being so careful picking out a specimen that had really good variegation on the stem, really nice, even variegation on the leaves, and I failed miserably. So no, I would not say this plant was worth the price point. It was only $35, but if it had been variegated, I think it would be. I think that is a great price for one that's going to stay variegated, but this has been the most disappointing Wishlist plant purchase of the year. I'm just so upset. I thought I was so careful. I think I spent like a whole day looking at different specimens of this plant, trying to pick out the right one, and I failed. I failed miserably. It's healthy, it's alive, it's doing well from that perspective, but it's just really disappointing when I wanted this plant for so long, and I've been watching the price drop, saying to myself, I'll buy it once it gets under 100. I'll buy it once it gets under $50 for cutting. And then I got it for $35, and it just did not love me back at all. So that's that with this plant. I am really sad about it, but hopefully propagation goes well. If it doesn't, I'm just gonna go out and buy another one because I really want it in my life. I love this plant. I love Philodendron micans. I love my velvet halo, but it's just this one did not pan out. You can't win them all. You just can't win them all. Final PlantCon wishlist plant purchase was a plant that ended up being like $5. It was listed at $15. That is my Philodendron mexicanum. It has put out a couple of new leaves since I repotted it. It's doing so well, and I'm just so happy with this plant. I love it so much. I know it's not really that much of a big deal of a plant, but I love it. I love the red backs on the leaves. I love that this plant is already more mature. I love that it's just really easygoing and happy. And this is exactly what I would want out of any philodendron in my collection. I am more of a Hoya and Anthurium girly, but when I love a philodendron, I really love it. And that is what I feel for this mexicanum. I would have paid more for this, and I would have thought it was worth it. Of course, this is worth $5. I don't know any plant that wouldn't be worth $5. So I am just it would have been worth 15. It would have been worth 20. It would have been worth 30. I am just so happy. This is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite purchases of the entire year. I just could not say enough about how much I wanted this plant, how much I love this plant. There were so many times I almost bought like really scraggly, overgrown versions of this plant. And the fact that I got a really nice, pretty one that I was able to pot up and get situated the way that I wanted to, and it can just sit on my shelf until it grows a little more, and then I'll give it a pull. This plant is just chef's kiss. I love it so much. And I am so happy to watch it continue to grow and hopefully just be a happy-go-lucky philodendron, kind of like some of the ones that are growing on poles over here. This is a plant that technically was not on my wish list, but it was up here. I don't know why I didn't ever write it down, but it was actually like a plant that I really wanted, and that is the Hoya flagellata. It is another one of those very rough sandpaper like Hoyas. I really like it. I like the way that it's sun stressed. It's just such a cool plant, and I was able to get it for a really good price. I don't remember what that was, but I did get it at the Nest Tropicals open house when there was a sale on trellises as well. So I just thought this was an absolute steal, worth the price. It is growing a little bit. There's some new vines coming out up here, and also fingers crossed that this actually blooms, but it did grow a peduncle for me. I have it on my windowsill. It's getting lots of light, and it's been pretty happy so far. I think there's been a couple new leaves. This one's super wonky. I don't know what it's doing with that. It's so long and textured, and it doesn't look like any other leaf on this plant. So that could just be a fluke. Sometimes Hoyas just do that randomly. But once I get these, I think, situated on the trellis, it'll just start growing some more leaves, and it's just doing well. Like, I'm pretty happy with it overall. This is a new leaf too. It's not hardened off yet. So I've just been letting it do its thing, leaving it alone for the most part, watering it once every 10 days or so. And I've been really pleasantly surprised by how easygoing it is. It reminds me a little bit of my Philodendron, just in the sandpaper feel, the splash. It's very similar, just mostly smaller leaves, I think. And I'm very happy that I got it. I really love a good sandpaper Hoya. It's pretty unique to me. I don't see too many of that kind of Hoya out there, and this was absolutely worth it. I would purchase again. I would just purchase a second one just to have it. That's how I feel about my Philodendron. Just a really cool, underrated Hoya. So 10 out of 10, would purchase again. Finally, we'll move on to a couple of my more recent Hoya purchases, and there'll be the last wishlist plants that I got this year. I did buy other plants in 2024, but some of them were just little add-ons or plants that I hadn't heard of until I saw them for sale, and I just kind of bought on a whim. But these last two were ones I very intentionally bought because they were on my wish list and they were both at such good prices. So this is the Hoya Le No ID. And I bought this, I wanna say, for $15. It was so cheap. It was barely rooted, so it was just starting to root in like a little water capsule, and I up potted it to this, and it does have some root growth at the bottom here, so it has been sort of solidifying itself in the roots. No new growth yet. It was a top cut, so it does have an active vine. I don't know what it'll do with that, but that's pretty much what's happened since I got it. I think I got it 2 months ago, so pretty recent purchase. I've been letting it establish itself. The one thing I will say, I love the leaf shape. I love the veining. I'm not in love with how thin the leaves are. That is a concern to me. I feel like this is going to be a very thirsty Hoya, and I don't do the best with those. So I'm very concerned. However, I did only pay $15. I think it was worth that price, absolutely. I've seen people pay a lot more for this, and it is a little bit harder to find. So I am pretty happy with it overall. Right now, I'd probably give it a 7.5 or 8 out of 10, just because the thin leaves are worrying me a little bit, but I do love the look of it. I do hope that it does better in the coming year, but it's just really stinking cute as a Hoya, and I do have some high hopes for it. So we'll just hope that it lives up to those expectations. Finally, I have a Hoya that I would say is my second favorite wishlist plant purchase of the year, right behind the mexicanum. And this is a plant that was also on my wish list for a very long time, like the bat cave or the nummularioides. And that is my Hoya arthrostemma silver. This I got in the same purchase with the Le No ID, so it's pretty recent as a purchase. It has been rooting itself really nicely. It is hard to see because the roots are a little bit more thin because they are in pon and fluval, but it has been rooting really well. No new growth yet, but I am going to be hopeful. The leaves are really thick, they're firm. It's been very healthy the entire time that I've had it, which is a good sign. I'm really looking forward to some growth. I do think this was worth the price tag of $50. I've been waiting for the price on this plant to come down for a long time because it hit the market at around $500 or more a node, and that's just not affordable for someone like me. So I waited until it came down to $50. I could have waited longer, but I was very impatient at that point for this plant. And I do think it was worth that price point because I love it. I think it is so cute. I love the pillowy leaf shape as well. And I'm a sucker for a silver Hoya. So this has definitely met and exceeded my expectations in a plant. There are some times where I love a plant online and then I purchase it, I'm like, ooh, I don't like this plant very much. And that is not the case for this one. This one is stunning. It is beautiful. Hopefully I can get some new growth out of it soon, but I'm going to try to be patient and just enjoy it because it is such a wonderful, adorable little Hoya. So those are all of the wish list plants that I got in 2024. I did not realize until I was making this video that I got so many. I checked so many plants off of my list, and I didn't really think I was taking my wish list that seriously for the past 2 years, but I guess I was this year. I'm really happy overall with the plants that I got. There are a couple that are slightly disappointing, but overall I'm just so thrilled with these plants in my collection, especially, like I said, the mexicanum and the arthrostemma silver. Those are top two. If those were the only two I got, I would be so happy. There are a few that I'm just waiting for them to grow. That would be really nice. I'm trying not to be too impatient, but you know, when the mexicanum is just out here growing like nobody's business, I'm like, some of y'all gotta catch up. But like Safi's saying, if you like this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up down below and subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here on the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.